We're in England and the sun is shining. Can you believe it? What a better way to start Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Sprint Cup. We've had that first endurance race, of course, at Paul Ricard. But now the sprint season kicks off with another mega grid at one of the favourite circuits for the Sprint Cup at Brands Hatch, one of the former homes of the British Grand Prix. And on a nice, clear, sunny May morning, free practice will be getting underway within the next 5 minutes or so. We've got a really good entry of factory drivers in Pro and some fascinating battles to look forward to in the gold and silver classes as well. David Addison and John Watson trackside. And John, here we are at a good old-fashioned old-school circuit.
Indeed we are, and a magnificent morning it is at Brands Hatch in the county of Kent, the Garden of England, they say. And the rolling hills that you find in this North Kent area is precisely where Brands Hatch is nestled. And it is a circuit of elevation, climb, fall, off-camber corners, 9 corners in total as we do our tracking map. And we see as they come through Stirling's all the way back down to the final 2 corners into clearways, but Clark Curve is the exit. And it's a circuit really where what we call a straight is not really a straight, just a very gradual curving, maybe down past the pits. You have a momentary bit of straight line, and then you incline up into Paddock Bend, and then the drop off the face of the cliff right down to the compression at the bottom of Paddock Bend. I mean, a wonderful racetrack. And I mean, when you consider what the conditions were here yesterday, I mean, it would have washed out anything. But this morning, racetrack's bone dry. Racetrack looks fantastic. Can't wait to see the cars on track.
And they will be on track for 60 minutes for free practice. Today we have free practice, we have pre-qualifying, and we have qualifying for the 2 races. Both races will be tomorrow. Charles Clark and Dante Rapponge share this Aston Martin that comes out of the Competition stable, and Charles Clark, the Brit, Dante Rapponge, Dutch driver, all part of the team moving from Audi to Aston Martin. Staying loyal to Audi is the Tresor Attempto racing squad. Alex Alker aboard number 99, which is the car that he will share with Riccardo Feller, last year's Sprint Cup champion, with Matteo Drudi, but Matteo Drudi has gone to Competition and Aston Martin, so they're split apart. Now this is interesting. For the first time, Mad Panda goes into the Pro Cup. Ezekiel Perez Compact joined by Alexander Sims. This is going to be a really interesting entry, isn't it?
Well, I think it's a real coup for Mad Panda Motorsport, because Alexander Sims is an outstanding race driver over many, many seasons in GT and all forms of motorsport, even sometimes dipping back into Formula 3 just to refresh himself about what open wheel racing is like. And that is going to bring a new dynamic to this team, and I'll be very interested to see whether that assists Ezekiel Perez Compact move forward in his own level and standard. And yeah, a very interesting combination.
Yeah, we've seen Ezekiel Perez Compact in the past for WRT, for example, and Audi's not a happy season, Lamborghini's before that, so he's an experienced driver, but it's going to be interesting to see how that relationship gels this weekend. Sam Dehaan aboard WRT's number 30 BMW. Callum Williams will be the second driver in that car that is part of the Silver Cup entry. There are 8 silvers, 5 golds and 12 in Pro to make up the entry. And of course this first session of the day is going to be really a case of cycling everybody through. Salo Yoruk, the ever-improving Turkish driver for AF Corsa's Racing Team Turkey entry. And it's good to have him in Sprint Cup for a change. And he's going to be joined by Charlie Eastwood, who has become a regular feature alongside Salo Yoruk in whether it's ELMS, WEC, and now Fanatec GT Sprint Cup. So that's going to be another car well worth keeping an eye on. It will be part of the Gold Cup, and number 10 is also for gold, also for silver, I should say, Aurélien Panis and César Gazeau for Boots and VDS. Boots and VDS also having a pro entry. We're going to touch on this because it's a significant one for Jules Gounon and Maxi Goertz. Now, that's going to be well worth keeping an eye to. Green flag waved. Yeah,
bumped into Max Goertz and Jules Gounon coming in. And the first question Jules asked is, did you ever race here in Formula 1? They couldn't get the head around it. And I said, well, yeah, that's another story for another day. Everybody out or leaving the pit lane to go on to track. Remember, track temperature, ambient, 16 Celsius. Ambient is 10, so track is still on the cool air side. Track will need rubber laying down because of all the rain that we've had, certainly yesterday, but really through the early part of this week. So that needs to be re-established. So these early laps are about just getting a sense and a feel from where the track is and not trying to set your fastest lap in the first 5 minutes of this session.
Indeed so, and because there was no testing for these cars yesterday, this is the first opportunity to be out on track. It was very, very wet yesterday, so everybody will be rubbering in the circuit. Anything that had been put down has been washed away, and their rounding Druids then is number 30, which will head down the hill in a moment. And of course, this session, not about chasing times. For many of them, it's just about mileage, it's about data, it's about setting up the car. But obviously times are going to be interesting as you look at the number 30 BMW growling its way up towards Surtees. And then, John, onto the Grand Prix section of the circuit.
Yes, this is the extension that was introduced, I think, back in 1965 or 66, and is what I would call the principal circuit here at Brands Hatch. Many would argue, in fact, that the Indy circuit, which is the original circuit layout, is the one that's a natural amphitheatre. Not as many spectators are allowed around the back of the circuit, and of course, a lot of the development, the residential development, is backing right up to the very edge of the racetrack, just out of sight behind these barriers. So it has a limited amount of access to the general public, but it is a great part of the racetrack. Hawthorne's Corner in particular is a challenge for every race driver, and you always think, I could have gone through that corner that little bit quicker, but to make the commitment to make yourself just drive through that maybe apprehension you have, well, you have to be very comfortable with your car and know that the track conditions are going to be favourable to you.
BMW to the line then. One or two that have gone out for an exploratory lap have come straight back in. Just an installation lap. Others might well start to think about a time. At certain parts of the circuit, you might have the track limit issue. Paddock is one, Graham Hill Bend another. But of course, on the Grand Prix part of the circuit, run wide, this is a place that bites. Oh
yes, I mean, there's lots of places around the circuit that can bite. We have seen in the past, coming through Sheen Curve, we were just watching Alex Alka. Presently, quickest sector one, middle time, nothing particularly special. Watch the curbs. Remember, these curbs can be unyielding, and in particular, they may still hold a degree of moisture from the rain that fell yesterday. So that's another little area drivers have to be conscious of. If you're going to run a curb, do it when you're running more or less in a straight line. Don't try and sort of dirt track over a curb and think you're going to get away with it.
Now, one of the things that the teams will also have to factor in is that there will be some noise testing going on when they come into the pit lane, so that will take a couple of minutes out of the session for them, and therefore they'll have to perhaps adjust their run plans accordingly. What they want out of this is as much mileage as they can get.
Yes, and you've got to give both drivers an opportunity. The 46 BMW, Valentino Rossi behind the wheel. Now it's changed, it's Maxime Martin, showing Rossi on the timing and scoring, but on this graphic it's saying Maxime Martin. But you will cycle both your drivers through, probably give them roughly equal amount of time in this session, and hopefully in that process you won't have any issues. The drivers will not make, you know, what you might call fundamental errors in maybe trying too hard too soon. You can just see coming through around the Westfield Bend, there was a hint of a little bit of weeping on the track.
Look how busy it is up the road ahead of Valentino Rossi here, as he comes then out of Stirling's, having never raced bikes here, but we've had him 3 years in a row now in cars, and he's got a right busy old circuit ahead of him as he drops down through clearways. The number 99 Alex Alka-driven Audi just up the road. That in turn has latched onto the back of the Comptiou Aston Martin. Ferrari ahead of the queue as the cars pound across the line. Fastest at the moment, incidentally, is Lucas Legeret. Change that. Valentino Rossi now goes top, and that will please Vincent Voss with the flat cap as ever, and Maxime Martin, who is the co-driver for Valentino. The background, Dries Van Thorp, who has, of course, been a triple champion and a winner here in the past.
And as we just going to say, a good job by Valentino Rossi. His time has been superseded by Yuzuki El Perez compact in the Mad Panda Mercedes. So that time from Rossi was actually set when he was in traffic.
Yeah.
So clearly there was maybe another half a second or more would have been available to Rossi to go that little bit quicker. Currently just under half a second behind the 90 Mercedes of Perez compact. So all will change probably within the next sentence. Yes, it has. Legeret in the 111 Audi has superseded the 90 Mercedes. So he's the, well, he's 62 hundredths of a second up. Very little there is Paul Everard in the 25. Comes across start-finish line.
Slightly puzzled because Ezequiel Perez compact is still being shown as being in silver on the timing display that we have. He's got a blue background to his number, but because of Alexander Sims being in the car, it has been on the official entry list put into Pro. So for the moment, ignore the fact that he's being shown as a silver. I think that's going to be tweaked over the course of the day. Fastest has just got number 71. Now, this is an interesting entry because drivers that are relatively new to GT3 racing, Eliseo O'Donnell, who was last year's Ferrari Challenge Europe champion, is at the wheel, and he's now done a 1:23.965. He's shared in that car. He shares it with Tom Fleming, who was the winner of the Ferrari World Finals last year and actually had 2 race wins in Ferrari Challenge UK here a week or 2 ago. So Tom Fleming and Eliseo O'Donnell again to run in the Silver Cup. Fastest outright at the moment, O'Donnell doing the time. 25 Audi there, you can see, is the Santalok entry of Paul Everard and Gilles Magnus, who we've got used to seeing doing great things with Audis, both GT3 or TCR spec Audis. Everard looking as though he's on a slow lap at the moment, trying to perhaps buy himself some clear track space. 15 cars have been out, 25 we have in total, but not everybody of those 15 has done a time.
I mean, some people will hold back because they feel, what's the point going out at the earliest opportunity? We know the track is going to ramp up very rapidly, so we're going to keep our tyre allocation as fresh as possible to give us the opportunity towards the middle or the end of this session to get a realistic view of what our potential performance over the both drivers is likely to be. So it's still Ferrari number 71, the only car currently to have broken into the 1:23 lap time. They've done it by only fractions of a second, but nevertheless, as you look at Callan Williams and the BMW, Callan Williams currently 3rd quickest on this particular run he's on.
Callan Williams, winner here of the Gold Cup in race 2 last year, when he was sharing with Nicholas Critton. So a man to watch, that's for sure, as the BMW out of the WRT stable blasts now down towards Clark Curve. Sam DeHaan, the other driver of that car, with him. And as number 30 BMW heads now up towards the line, 3rd it was, and is it going to go any better? No, 3rd it stays. 2nd it goes. Apologies, it was late coming up on the timing screen. So 2nd fastest now, Callan Williams. And he's going to find a little bit of traffic just up the road on this lap. We have got a number of drivers making their Fanatec GT debuts this weekend. Eliseo O'Donnell, Tom Fleming, I've already mentioned, they're new to the championship. Another is the Irish driver Rhys Barr, that has driven in the Intercontinental GT Challenge race at Kyalami and in International GT Open, but never in Fanatec GT. And James Jakes, ex-British Formula 3 racer, more recently IndyCar driver and occasional prototype racer. He also makes his Fanatec GT debut, and he will be aboard one of the Comtier Astons with Mathis Lismont, number 21.
I haven't seen him around for a long time. You occasionally see him in a social context in and around Oxford,
right?
But behind a racing car, wheel of a racing car, well, a lot of the time was spent racing in America on oval races and street tracks. Good to see him back racing in Europe. Good to see him in our championship.
Very true. Jeff Machiels then, who gets faster and faster with more experience, sharing not with Dad, but with the Singaporean driver Sean Hudspeth this weekend. And Jeff Machiels goes through. He's a Carter turned single-seater racer before perhaps inevitably following Louis Machiels' trend of coming into Ferraris in GT racing. Sean Hudspeth gets himself ready. So anticipate a driver change. We've had a driver change in 71. The fastest Ferrari, Tom Fleming, has now taken over that car. And the fastest lap we've had thus far is a 1:23.4. Driver change going on aboard number 57. That is Magnus Gustafsson to give way to Rhys Barr.
That car had been 5th quickest up until a couple of laps ago. It's just dropped back because of the improvement from Valentino Rossi, who's now up to 5th. Callan Williams, we know about, he's back in the pit lane, currently 2nd, and is still the 71 Ferrari. As we look at the 51, Solok Jaulik behind the wheel, and Charlie Eastwood. I'm looking forward to see Charlie behind the wheel of a Ferrari. We know how good he's been in Porsche, how good he's been in pretty much every brand, in particular Aston Martin. This is a competitive car, and it's going to give that driver pairing an interesting weekend, because the grass just been, that's just because drivers run wide on the exit. They've cut the grass at Brands Hatch, but they haven't picked up the leaves or picked up the grass cuttings. So the grass cuttings are now being blown onto the rim.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't make it up.
Salah Joloch, who gets better and better every season. Now, it's actually shown as being Charlie Eastwood on our timing screen and Salah Joloch on the graphic. So Let's go with the timing screen, I think, rather than the graphic. Apologies. I think a number of the names there are not right, but we're going to go with the timing screen, and therefore we'll put Charlie Eastwood into that car. That said, it's not a very Charlie Eastwood time, so plot thickens. Either way, let's just tick off Salah Yoluch, because as I was saying, he has become faster and faster with every season. When he started off in British GT, was a tad wild, but he's calmed down. He was the Pro-Am class winner at Spa in the 24 hours in 2019. He's been a Le Mans class winner. He's been an ELMS champion, and with Ayn won that FIA GT Nations Cup race that we had in Bahrain back in 2018.
So an interesting pairing, good to have them again as part of our weekend. Now what we're waiting for is going to be the Boots and VDS entry of Jules Gounod, Maxime and Gut. They have yet to venture out, and I suspect, as maybe mentioned earlier in the broadcast, they're just waiting. They know what they've got. Both drivers are known quantities. They know the car inside out. So wait and see when they come out. Were they going to go out and blitz current fastest time of 1:23.4, or will it actually be a bigger challenge than they've maybe estimated?
Yeah, so those Pro Cup cars waiting until the midpoint of the session before they join in. Some Pro entries are on track, 1 or 2. 57 then, back out, Rees-Barr at the wheel of it. So the Irish driver making his Fanatec GT debut, having begun in karts in Ireland. He's raced in the Mini Challenge in TCR, Carrera Cup in Germany, and had a couple of years not racing, but being a Honda development driver. And 51 is Salah Yoluch, so the timing screen is right, but the transponder is wrong on the timing screen. So Yoluch is confirmed as being in 51.
So the Mercedes comes across the start-finish line. Any change? Nothing on that particular lap. So having gone out, done your initial laps, and the freshness of the tire may have just begun to disappear, and you get into that and looking into the WRT garage with Valentino behind the wheel talking to his engineering crew. And I don't know what you're going to change in these short sessions. I mean, the fundamental car is set up basically on a simulator, and other than maybe a minor change to a bar position or something that can be adjusted quickly, but even aero changes are probably not going to get made, other than you can maybe make a small adjustment on the rear wing.
You've got to say, these cars always look right around Brands Hatch, especially in the sunshine. Mathis Lismont aboard number 21 and heading now up towards Westfield, goes through that fast right-hander.
The Come To You race team had a very difficult beginning of the season back at Paul Ricard. 2 of their cars heavily damaged, and I think maybe just a certain amount of lack of time, track time for some of their drivers accounted for that. But hopefully now, having gotten through that, and hopefully again having time to go testing between the 2 events, we're going to see that situation not arising again.
So up to the timing line comes Mathis Lismont, who I think I'm right in saying has not raced at Brands Hatch before. Learning all the time, goes by, and former motocrosser, has been a class winner in the Zolder 24 hours, but learning about a lot of circuits this year, and this is not an easy one to learn.
It's an old school circuit, and it's all the better for it. But I mean, just even coming out of Druids, just running the curb and the exit, so easy to do that. Maybe drop a wheel off, and then you get that very sudden snap oversteer, and you go straight across the racetrack into the bales, the tower wall on the opposite side of the track. So this is a racetrack that does not take any prisoner, and it's really part of the enjoyment of racing at Brands Hatch, because you know the limits, you can see them, and you need to respect those limits, because if you do decide to be a little bit avant-garde with your driving style, it'll bite you.
Well, Lismont's got the road to himself right now. Still Ferrari fastest, that time of Eliseo Dono. Lismont then in this new for this year car, the Aston Martin Vantage, which has been designed really to, if you like, get the most out of the lesser experienced driver, or the AMS, to be user-friendly. Behind is another interesting car, Max Hofer, driving for the Licky Moly Team Engschler squad. They had a DTM win a week ago, and he's Max Hofer with Luca Engschler, with the One Group engineering squad effectively running this car. Ron Hartveldt's very experienced and successful company. There it is. And Max Hofer, we know he's good from racing TCR cars or GT in Australia, you name it, comes across the line. This, I think, could well be one to watch over the course of the season.
Well, I think here at Brands Hatch, I mean, it's always been a bit of a hunting ground for Audi. In fact, it's been for a number of brands, but Audi have had great success. And while they're not in the numbers or with the depth of strength that they have enjoyed in previous seasons, it's still a racetrack where this car can be very effective.
Yeah, Ron Hartwell, who, as I say, through his One Group engineering company, has joined forces with the Angela Motorsport team to run this car. Very experienced because he's worked in Formula One, he's worked in DTM, Super Touring, Touring Car Era, TCR more recently. Masses of experience. And although you're looking at Max Hofer, not Luca's father, Franz Angela, a very experienced single-seater turned touring car racer himself. So there's a lot of good engineering brains within that camp, and I think they're going to get the most out of this Audi. And we know that's still a competitive car. Won the championship last year, for example.
Well, I mean, you might call loosely the owner's handbook. There's so much knowledge, information about the race car that a team can just look into and say, well, Brands Hatch, going back over the previous years, what did they do? Why did they do it? Was it done individually for a particular driver pairings choice? Or what is the setup that we can put on our car to give both drivers a chance to go out, reacquaint themselves, or in some cases learn this 2.4 mile, 3.9 kilometer racetrack, 9 turns in total. So that's the beauty of going down the Audi path. There's so much knowledge and information available. In the meantime, Aston Martin, Nicholas Baird, the number 7, has clawed his way up to be second quickest. Still a half a second behind the fastest time set by the 71 Ferrari. So on board with Alex Arca. So coming through Clark Curve, through clearways onto what one might loosely call, it's actually called Brabham Straight, and out of acknowledgement for the great Australian 3-time world champion Sir Jack Brabham. Then into Paddock Bend, then there's big compression to the bottom of Paddock, then the climb. And David, you know how steep that climb is when you run around the racetrack.
Absolutely.
Quickly into Druas, hug the curb, but watch on the exit because you can run wide. And that little snap oversteer from the Audi indicates well wide entering into Graham Hill Bend, pretty wide on the exit. Now there are monitoring on the exit of Graham Hill Bend for any track limit abuses. And before you know it, you're into Surtees. I love this corner. It was a great overtaking opportunity to sling it down the inside and then compromise the car you're overtaking, and then you're onto this long Pilgrim's drop up Hawthorne Hill, and then it's quicker than you think. Because it's actually uphill, you can carry more speed into the bend. Then the short sprint down to Westfield, bumpy on the entry, watch again on the exit, that curve on the outside catches up many. Then the compression again, all the way down to Dingledale, up into Sheen Curve, another great corner. It's a corner you have to anticipate, you can't see the apex until you're on top of it. Then finally through Stirling's, that curving has caught so many drivers out in the past. Then the short sprint down to Clark and Clearways, and that's a lap. It's a quick lap, currently the quickest lap, 1:23.4, still stands to the 71 Ferrari.
Alex Arca then hustles on over the line. And he's somebody else that just gets better and better. He's up to 4th fastest now, but he has really developed over the years with more track time, and the rough edges inevitably have been filed off him. He's a good character, as we know from when he joined us in the Kyle Army 9 Hours commentary booth at the start of last season. And disarmingly honest about his errors if he makes them, and a good character. Callum Williams then, we touched on him earlier on, 3rd fastest for WRT in the BMW, goes across the line, and that lap, a 1:24.312.
So looking down, we're seeing a lot of track limit warnings at turn 1, which is the exit of Paddock, turn 3, which is Graham Hill Bend, and those are the 2 corners. I don't know that there's more corners being monitored, but those are the 2 corners. And I mean, our timing and scoring information feature on the screen is almost run out of space. So many drivers are being done. Oh, car 111, pit lane speed limit violation by 0.1 of a kilometre per hour. Give that driver a scoot spanking. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Lucas Legere is the man that is shown as being behind the wheel. So that will be potentially when he was leaving the pit lane rather than coming in. Eager to get on track. Number 12, Aston, quick look at that. Charles Clark behind the wheel of it. The driver that's come into Fanatec GT this year, having raced in British GT4 last year, the GT4 class, and the Porsche Sprint Challenge before that. There aren't that many cars on the road at the moment, but Callum Williams taking up attention. Alex Arca is up to 2nd though now, so this BMW that was 3rd is now 4th. And I wonder how much longer Callum Williams will stay out before he gives way to the British driver Sam DeHaan, last year's IGTO, International GT Open champion.
I mean, I don't know what teams' strategies are, but I'm assuming they fill the tank with enough fuel to do the 1 hour session. So they're not coming in, refueling, and then going back out again. So as the fuel load lightens, then in theory the times will improve. But that's offset by how much tyre wear you've enjoyed or used during your time on track.
So the AF Corsa Ferraris power towards us. Nicholas Bart's just brought number 7 Aston into the pit lane, which should therefore put Matthew Drudy into it, and that's going to be one to watch.
Absolutely. Well, Matthew Drudy was a real star for me, and I think for both of us, in fact, over the course of the last few seasons.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has always delivered. And of course, coming into a new brand, a new team, he's got to learn the team. He's got to learn what an Aston Martin Vantage ARM GT3 Evo, to give it its full designated title. So we didn't get to see the full potential from Aston Martin at Paul Ricard. Wow, I tell you what, running very close to the edge of dropping a wheel off into that bit of fastest sector 2 overall. This is the car that is still currently the fastest car on track, and this might see that time 123.4 further improved upon.
We've had Ferrari wins here in the past. We've had Silvers winning outright here in the past. This could be another one. Eliseo O'Donnell then, 123.416, the best lap time. Slightly slower last time, but this is looking really good for a Brands rookie.
I think the lap that we saw, that purple sector, middle sector, was actually his out lap.
Right.
So he didn't have a sector time in sector 1. So I'm assuming now this is, we're looking at the 71, the AF Corsa Ferrari. That is the car we're talking about. Watch just as he runs. That's what I was talking about there. You see, you put your wheel in that. Now that's pretty much dried out, but you can't. If that was any damper, that could have been a big problem.
But the more people that do that, the deeper that rut, that trench, if you like, becomes behind the curb. More soil and a little bit more gravel dragged onto the racetracks. At the end of an hour of racing, that could be quite treacherous. They're all smiles at AF Corsa, aren't they? Tom Fleming ready to get on board in the car that's the quickest. So good start to the day for the Anglo-Italian partnership. Tom Fleming, as I say, the winner of the Ferrari World Finals last year, and the European champion in Ferrari racing, Eliseo O'Donnell. So it's a good combination of drivers. They're a tenth and a bit up as you look at Cesar Gazzo for Boutsen VDS. Thierry Boutsen himself is at Paul Ricard making an occasional visit, and we're on board right now.
So again, we're onto this sort of so-called straight. So you're on now Pilgrim's Drop. There's a small compression here as you climb up then into Hawthorne's Hill, then into Hawthorne's Bend itself. And it's a corner where a car like the Mercedes, which is such a good balanced car, will give the driver confidence. Then quickly into Westfield. Again, you can see the amount of confidence that's coming from Gazoo. Up the hill into Sheen. Just you have to anticipate where the apex is, then get your car back to the right as soon as possible. Then tuck the nose in, and don't run the curb too aggressively. That was a good exit from Gazoo. But the lap time isn't indicating any improvement in any of the first 2 sectors. So wait to see what this lap will be. Currently, Gazoo is 6th quickest of the car. And seems like Gazoo was behind the wheel when that time was set. So that's a 124.006. The last lap was a 125.4. So just about a second down on what his previous best has been. Back up the hill into Druids, gets the nose in. I mean, just sitting behind them, watching what Gazoo's doing, and the way that a good car makes a driver's job, particularly here at Brands Hatch, an awful lot easier. Whereas maybe with an Audi, and you can see Alex Arca discussing what his run has been with the engineers, doesn't look overly happy, but then maybe that's just a reaction to being second quickest.
But Eliseo O'Donnell has done a very impressive job. That, off the road, is Valentino Rossi's car, is it not? And it is Valentino behind the wheel. That's at Sterling's.
That is a tyre bale incident.
Yeah, he's gone right, not left at Sterling's. And to do that, one thinks either he's made contact with somebody and it's pitched him off, or there's been a failure.
Well, we don't know. We'll have a look and see. So he got the wheel off. And that is coming out of Sheen, and how he got to that part of the side of this, I mean, it shouldn't have been there.
Run wide onto the grass, coming out of Sheen curve, lose it, slide across.
And that, again, the grass is still wet.
Yeah.
So there's no traction there whatsoever. And of course, once the car broke away, then just the kinetic energy involved. Valentino, there's the view on board. And thankfully we don't have a microphone in his helmet to hear what he might be saying. It wouldn't really matter because I don't speak Italian. Maybe some of our audiences would appreciate it. Certainly the people watching this broadcast in Italy would have had that full version of that.
Lots of arm twirling, came to naught, off he goes.
That's a disappointment.
Red flag.
Red flag.
No surprise, the car's got to be removed. So we've got to get a snatch vehicle onto the circuit, get that car put out of the... Hopefully there's no damage to the car other than very light nerfing into the tyre bales, and they'll not have been too disturbed.
Well, Maxime Martin thinks might not be busy for a while now, so he will await news. The red flag showing the voice you heard in the background, that of the race director, Alain Adon, but the session stopped, but the clock will carry on ticking because of the fact that it is free practice, so all of this eats into the time available. We were nudging towards half distance as a phlegmatic Maxime Martin shrugs his shoulders, getting the end of the drama again. Look, I think he's just run wide, coming out of Sheen Curve, hooks the wheel onto the grass, which will be wet after yesterday's very heavy rain.
Yeah, I mean, and they had very little tarmac to help the retardation. Then just the momentum, say the kinetic energy, onto the gravel. And the gravel itself, likewise, because of the rain, is more compacted than one would maybe normally have it on a full dry circuit.
Let's just hear the radio message from Valentino.
I go out. I am here in the grass. I was in the gravel. I am in the gravel, but everything is okay. I touch with the front, of course.
So car 46 is the tire by...
Okay, just wait for the marshal. Wait for the marshal. Put the car in neutral also, please.
So Valentino Rossi explaining what he's done, and giving the team the good news that everything's okay, just a brief off, and I've touched the tyre barrier with the front. But the team then saying, right, put the car in neutral because they don't want any mechanical damage to happen while it's being taken out of the gravel bed.
I mean, putting the car in neutral, can you do that when the engine's not running? I mean, there are so many protocols involved in what you do when a car comes to a non-natural standstill. So the car would have maybe still been in gear, but the point when it came to a standstill. So we wait to see. There's the WRT garage watching, and it's gone a bit quiet in there. So a little bit of a setback for the 46 BMW, as we see the 12 Aston is being pushed back into its box. That was Charles Clark, currently that car 15th in the silver category. So it's currently, in terms of brands, it's Ferrari quickest, then 2 Audis, then the first of the Mercedes, the first of the BMWs. And that's the top 5. And still waiting to see where the, I'm just looking down, Jules Gounod, the number 9 Mercedes, and Maximilian Goetz, they've yet to appear. And of course, with this red flag, they may decide when the track goes green again to get out at the earliest opportunity.
So there, the Pro Cup cars with the platinum and higher graded drivers waiting their turn, not allowed out at the start of the session. Only Pro Cup cars with lower graded drivers can go out. But the likes of Dries Van Thor and Mathieu Drudy, you'll see, although his car has been out, he's not been allowed to go out. Let's hear from Alex Arca. Antonio is down in the pit lane for us as ever this weekend.
Alex, you've got a fantastic sprint lineup this year, yourself and Ricciardo. You've put it into P2. You must be feeling pretty good.
It's a bit early to tell that. Yeah, it's quite early to say, but I have to say car feels quite good. I love the track, to be honest. With Ricky, I have a good mentor and a good coach as well on the car, a good friend of mine as well, so I think we should be sorted for this week, I'd say.
Do you think, looking ahead to the rest of the season, you've got the facilities to do as well as you did last year?
It's an early question again, huh? It's quite early to... Yeah, I mean, obviously I have to say yes, but I'll just see what this race is going to be like, and yeah, just look forward from there.
Well, all the best. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, Alex Hacker looking a little bit happier than a few minutes ago when he got out of the car. There is Alex behind the wheel. And this is the exit of Sheen Curve, again, running to the very limit on the outside of the corner. That's where Valentino was caught out. He got the left rear wheel over that white line and then caught the edge of the grass, or what is more likely earth. And that then set the car off on its trajectory across the racetrack and into the tyre bales. Only, albeit a light contact, but this is how Alex Arca did it, and he did it pretty successfully. That car and driver currently second quickest, just a tenth of a second away from the 71 Ferrari. But again, just so careful on the exit. This is out of Sterling's, and it's the drop down. Arca managed to not make the drop. There is the BMW extracted from. There'll be a load of gravel in that car, so hopefully when Valentino gets it fired up and running, he's not going to drive back on the racing line. He may pull it over to the left. Yes, he is. Good man, well done. But when he comes down to Clark Curve or Clearways, he's trying to get some of the gravel out of it. It will naturally be deposited. Then you're going to have to cut across the track to get into the pit lane. So just keep an eye and see if a load of gravel gets dumped on the racing line or not. Where's he? Oh, a quick go. I think he almost thought he was going to do a flying lap there.
So the session is going to restart in about 4 minutes' time. Just to make the point again that only silver and bronze graded drivers can do the first 30 minutes of a free practice session if there is a given number of silver and bronze graded drivers within the entry. So it gives them a bit of clear track space to learn in comfort, if you like. And then the second 30 minutes are for the gold and platinum graded drivers. You could argue that they don't need as much time because they are factory drivers or very experienced drivers, hence their grading. But it does mean that some of the teams only get 30 minutes out of the hour, and you divide that by the two drivers, and you take an in-lap and an out-lap. There's not much time available.
Session will restart
I think you're absolutely right. And that's obviously the clear reason why we didn't see the number 9 Mercedes, the Butch and VDS team, out on track with Gounod and Max Goertz, because they've had to sit it out. So they will now have a track. They've lost time, yes. They've lost 30 minutes, yes. But they're coming out on a racetrack that is now a much better racetrack than it was 30 minutes ago. And they've got an hour target time to look at, about 23.4. So they know that's the benchmark time that's been set by the 71 Ferrari. And on it goes and on it goes.
Session restart in 30 seconds, in fact. So Alain Ardon, the race director, his deputy Joel Doval, they've now assessed the track. It's clear there's no gravel that needs sweeping up anywhere particularly. So they are eager to get the cars back out again. And we are about 10 seconds away from the green flag. Let's go back to number 46 BMW from earlier on.
I thought
And green flag, green flag.
The barrier was soft. The steering is straight. I don't know the Muhammad in the front of the car.
Valentino explaining what the car felt like on its way in. Right, green flag has fluttered, and we are into the second half, so you can anticipate now it's going to be a very busy racetrack.
Yeah, we're going to see now some serious running from those Pro and Platinum drivers. It's going to be a busy racetrack also, because virtually the entire field, basically the 17 cars that were on track. So we're going to have another 6, 7, 8 cars coming out. Dries van Thor has just left the pit lane in the 32 WRT BMW, so it doesn't take Dries van Thor very long to get down to a competitive lap time. Currently the quickest BMW is from that sister stable, Callan Williams, currently in 5th position, and that's a 123.9. So that's the benchmark Dries van Thor has for the BMW. And as you see him just overtaking, coming down on his out lap, just weaving around gently to get heat, build up heat as he comes into Hawthorns. So it gets through Hawthorns. Now this is an out lap, but already you can think that Dries van Thor is pushing pretty hard to get temperature into the car and the tyres, but closing in on traffic, so he's going to have to be a little bit patient, which is what effectively he's done. Just backed off. He doesn't want to run up against the Mercedes directly ahead of him. You see how much slower he is, and pretty much as everybody else has done the same thing. No one wants to get involved with other traffic at this phase. So first flying lap about to commence for the 32 BMW. Dries van Thor behind the wheel. If we can follow this lap, it will be, I think, instructive to see how quick this car is going to be, but just what a great race driver Dries van Thor is.
Yeah, indeed. And with a year of experience of the BMW under his belt, and also, of course, don't forget, he's a very handy prototype driver. He's had some good results. Class wins at Le Mans, for example, in LMP2. Dries very, very accomplished now, and went toe-to-toe with his brother in the Nürburgring 24 hours, didn't he, 12 months or so ago, and came out on top of that battle. But let's see what he can do around here. Got a good track record from Brands Hatch, having been a winner here before, and of course a triple champion in sprint. Straight away, that car looking competitive.
Yeah, that's unsurprisingly, first sector time is his best.
Yeah.
But this is first flying lap, so
Indeed.
understandably it is. So the next lap will be either green, yellow, or purple. So, very wide, very wide.
Yes.
You can see a little wisp of spray coming off left front tire as he exited. So there is moisture in the grass. And that was Dries van Voor pushing.
Yeah.
So second sector time coming up very shortly indeed. So he's had a clear run at it. So it's going to be most certainly green. It's purple, fastest overall by 0.3 of a second. But I did say keep an eye on this lap, because it will give us a benchmark time of what Dries van Voor can do.
But that sector's interesting because, as you say, absolute best of the session, including running wide coming out of Hawthorne. So
Indeed.
this should be better than a 23.4 to go top of the times. Dries breaks the beam and does indeed go quickest. 1:23.106, 0.3 up on the LSA O'Donoghue time. Either way, it's nearest to you. His son Charles, Dries' co-driver behind him. Now there, number 48, that is the Mauro Engel Winward Racing Mercedes. And this is another car to keep an eye on, former sprint champion.
Well, we've got two Mercedes out now. Jules Gounod in the number 9, Mauro Engel in the 48, and Christopher Haase not in the Mercedes, but in his usual berth in an Audi. So those are 3 pro drivers out, and expect to see those drivers currently haven't recorded a time on their first, maybe second flying lap, elevating themselves all the way up to where Dries van Voor has landed himself, currently provisionally quickest.
I said former sprint champion for Mauro Engel, I lie. Endurance champion is what I meant to say. And he's found the Porsche ahead of him as the cars now come up towards Westfield. So turning his way now to try to get past the 911, which I think has got Sven Muller at the wheel of it. But Mauro raced here, of course, in his Formula 3 days, looking for a way by. He knows Brands Hatch very well from recent GT experience. And now Sven Muller gets out of the way, but at least for a couple of corners, the Mercedes will have been fractionally impeded. This is on an outlap, Mauro Engel, so he's eager to get on with the programme. Van Voor from Christopher Haase is the top 2, and then Tom Fleming has taken over 71 Ferrari, which was quickest early on, that's now third. Right, Engel is your chauffeur. Let's do a lap.
Okay, paddock hill bend. Ooh, that's what it feels like when you go through the compression. Then you rise up the hill. Get the nose of the Mercedes in. Looks pretty good from Mauro Engel. Again, a generous exit. Doesn't run too wide on the curb. Get the car back to the right, then cut back quickly to the left. But watch here. That is where you will get a penalty, certainly if you insist on doing it. Then up into the Surtees. Some people hang out a little bit later, then make a more acute cut into the corner. That's the softer line in. That's the preferred line for Mauro Engel. Then now flat out all the way under the bridge. Sometimes you come onto the straight and think, I'm going to hit the bridge, but in fact there's plenty of clearance. Then up the hill, up Hawthorne Hill, into Hawthorne's Bend.
Right, just keep an eye on Engel's lap, but let's hear from Valentino Rossi. He's got some explaining to do, Antonia.
That was a rare mistake from you. Did you get a good feel for the car before you went off?
Yeah, I'm very sorry because I did a mistake, exit from the turn 7, and I arrived a little bit too fast and I touched the grass, but unfortunately on the grass it was very difficult to control the car and go out on the gravel. I'm very sorry for the team and for Maxime because he will miss the practice, and also we don't have a lot of time. But at the beginning, the feeling with the car was not too bad. We have to work a little bit on the balance, but it was good. So it's a shame this mistake. We're lucky because the car have a lot of gravel, but looks not with the big problems.
You said the car's quite difficult to control. Is that a theme around the circuit or just for this session?
No, I mean difficult to control on the grass because the grass is very wet and a lot of mud, but you need to stay on the asphalt.
All right, thank you. All the best.
Lesson learned for Valentino.
But you know the irony of that little incident Valentino had was the incident began on the exit of Sheen Curve. Barry Sheen,
Yes,
another
right.
world champion, great British motorcyclist. So here we are, back on board Mauro Engel. So let's see him going through Hawthorne, so gets again, not as, let's say, courageous on the exit as we saw Dries van Voor, then into Westfield. Everything looks so, when Mauro Engel's behind the wheel, he makes it look so easy. He doesn't make it look as if he's driving quickly. He's pushing hard, of course. We need to see the sector times for the 48 Mercedes, then into Stirling's Bend. The sunlight just catches you just at the apex of the corner. But again, everything that Mauro Engel does behind the wheel is so measured and so accurate. So it comes through the final curve and the exit of the curve, then back on the start, finish straight to to see where the 48 Mercedes is going to end up. Right now, the number 9 Mercedes has gone quickest overall. So Mauro Engel, where is he? Currently finishes, I was going to say, he's now up to 5th place. So that lap previously was 9th, now up to 5th place. So it's Mercedes 1st and 5th.
And that's Mauro's co-driver, Lucas Auer, who will take over, another factory driver. Got 2 factory combinations, Auer and Engel being one of them, and this another, Gunnar and Goetz. This is the car John was just talking about going fastest. Jules Gunnar at the wheel of it, 1:22.9 is the best lap that he's done. 51 thousandths up on Thierry Vermeulen in the Emil Frey Racing Run Ferrari. Dries Van Thor is 3rd, Tom Gamble's McLaren is 4th, Mauro Engel is 5th, Christopher Haasler's Audi is 6th. It's getting really nice and tasty now. We've only got 19 minutes to go.
Well, once the pro drivers are being released, all of a sudden the dynamic of this session has come alive. So we're now seeing, if you want the pro drivers, the most likely drivers to win the race overall, and a late call by Jules Gunnar coming back into the pits. Now, drivers will do that as a practice for what they will be doing when get into these 2 one-hour sprint races. That'll be timed for the point when he got on the brakes at that demarcation line, pit lane entry line. Thierry Vermeulen, excellent job so far. He was momentarily quickest, and on this lap, looking to see whether there's any further improvement. Don't see it. Wow.
Well, that was a good save, wasn't it?
Well,
Thierry Vermeulen.
But also, what a forgiving car.
Yeah.
Because that, in some cases, would have been clearly another Ferrari. Having said that, that's Keels. Is that Jeff or
that's Tom Fleming.
Oh, Tom Fleming.
That was the car that was quickest earlier on. If you can't get off that wet grass, you know what colour of flag we might be looking for. Right, Vermeulen has gone 2nd, and there is 71 Ferrari, which ain't for moving. That's heading up the hill. Red flag again. That's heading into Sheen Curve, isn't it?
I think that's either going into Sheen Curve or Westfield. He's coming out of Westfield. Look at the amount of water. That's what you're saying is the spray coming off the car. That has gone a long way. I mean, that's like, and the tire bales have been dislodged, so they'll have to be replaced. Probably little damage to the car, other than a lot of mud and grass, whatever is going to be cleared out. But illustrates just how unforgiving it is if you run. You put half a wheel out. Look at Vermeulen. Look how far he got onto the dirt, but the bit of the racetrack, or not the dirt part of the racetrack, offered him some bite.
Yeah.
Whereas coming out of Westfield, once you got on the grass, it's as if the grass just literally drags you off the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, once you're on that grass, you're just a passenger. The car tobogganed its way down the hill.
I mean, and the spray that we saw coming off the car, literally going sideways, indicates just how much moisture there still is being retained in anything that isn't black and tarmac.
There's not much damage to the car. I think you might have tweaked the rear wing, but the real problem there is A, getting it off the grass, which is so wet and sodden, and B, putting the recticel back, because that's been dragged off, as you saw. Right, so he's just wide at Westfield, and once he's on the grass now, passenger time. I just wonder, when he had run wide on the exit of Westfield, had he lifted, or do you think, I'm going to drive through this, I'm going to get away with it? Which is quite often a view that a race driver might hold. Just clip the rear end plates. I think in reality, that any damage is going to be relatively minor. It'll just be a question of getting the car back to the pits, whether it can do so under its own steam or not. It won't have any traction right now on that wet grass on a set of slicks, so it will need assistance to get the car onto the tarmac. Eliseo O'Donoghue watching that. Although we don't have a bleep machine handy, we can tell you that between expletives, Tom Fleming is very sorry for what's happened and apologetic to the team, but he's really frustrated about that. Take our word for it.
Yeah, I mean, when he gets back to the pits, maybe Antonio can have a word with them. And the question I was asked is, when you ran wide in the exit of Westfield, did you keep your foot in it, thinking you'd get away with it, or did you check up and lift off? And I was going to say, I thought that was Nicholas Todd. It's not. It looked rather like him.
So
there we go. So
gets back, Antonio can have a word.
My wish has been fulfilled. So Antonio will be waiting for the Ferrari to return, and microphone will be the first thing he's confronted with.
And Tom Fleming, that you've just seen go off, he was the driver I was talking about who won both of the Ferrari Challenge UK races here a couple of weekends ago. Now, they're a different spec of car. The one make series, not as powerful and don't have as much aero as GT3. But he knows about the circuit, he knows about Ferraris. It also prompts me to mention that the Ferrari Challenge has been announced as the one make category for the FIA Motorsport Games this year at the end of October when we head to Valencia. Another new event to add to the...
will we be getting a courtesy Ferrari 296, do you think, GTB?
I think you will.
I think it would be lovely. I mean, the road up to, well, it's not the road up, as you say, the road to the circuit, Valencia. It's a bit of dual carriageway, so you can give it a bit of a blast.
Excellent.
But you've got to be careful for the not the Carabinieri, that's the wrong nation. Whatever the equivalent would be in Valencia.
So the team's getting themselves ready for a short, sharp blast, because for the gold and platinum drivers, they only had half an hour anyway. Now they're going to lose probably 10 minutes out of that because of this car being retrieved and the tyre barrier repair. 96 Porsche, which is the entry of Sven Müller and Patrick Niederhauser for Rutronic Racing. That could be one to watch over the course of the championship season. They know how to win races and bank points.
Yes, and Patrick Niederhauser, we have always bigged up in terms of his ability, certainly when he was in Audi, and did a great job over the previous 2 seasons.
The Audi Sport cessation of the programme has really been one of the factors that has given us so much of a shuffle of entry list in GT racing. I know that 1 or 2 drivers switching to other manufacturers and championships has done the same, but you know, with all of a sudden a lot of Audi drivers looking for a home, it's really changed how an entry list looks.
I think what I like about it is you see a driver who's been attached to a manufacturer for a number of years, so he just drives that manufacturer's brand. All of a sudden, Audi's, as a factory team, it's not quite disbanded, but it's not the same as it had previously been. So you're getting drivers, Patrick Niederhauser as an example, is now in a different manufacturer with a completely different, Porsche with the engine hung out over the back, whereas the Audi was a mid-engine, rear-engine car. So he's got to learn a GT3 Porsche as opposed to maybe having raced other Porsche and other One Make Series championships.
So Sam de Haan you're looking at as their number 71 Ferrari has been hoiked off the grass. There was a chat between driver and the medical team, and he was saying, I'm absolutely fine, don't worry about it, I can drive it back, it's all good. So the medical team have left, the marshals will go back to post, we need that recovery truck off the track as well, and we are with just 12 minutes and change on the clock. So as you can see, things are marching on for the teams and those drivers that haven't yet been out, like a Goetz or, for example, an Auer. You're looking at the 2 Mercedes there. They need a bit of mileage. 69, Thierry Vermeulen. We talked about having that wild old ride coming out of Sterling's. Giacomo Altwe has yet to have a go behind the wheel of that car as the second driver. The fast lane is open, which means that really as soon as the recovery vehicle creeps towards the Indy circuit, they can let them go, because by the time the race cars come round, that'll be off the track.
Yeah, so Jules Gounod has established the quickest lap so far, 1:22.9, just by 51/100ths of a second over Vermeulen and the Ferrari. But those cars, it'll be Giacomo Altwe get behind the wheel of the Ferrari, Maximilian Goetz gets behind the wheel of the number 9 Mercedes. Charles Weerts has taken over from Dries van Thor, so he's already been out and had an opportunity, but it was somewhat forestalled by that incident with the Ferrari we're looking at now. So Antonia is down in that AF Corsa garage. Whether Tom Fleming will vacate the cockpit, I hope he does. And as I said, the first thing he's going to say, oh, I didn't want to do an interview just now, can I speak to my team first? But she's made her stern stuff. She'll say, no, why did you make that error?
Explain yourself. You can see how keen everybody is to get out there. The fast lane open, and pretty much the whole field, not quite, but pretty much everybody eager to get out. Charles Weerts, we haven't seen him behind the wheel yet, but he will be the first driver out.
Green flag.
And the call comes from race control, green flag. So we are in business. Flag waved, and the circuit live for just over 10.5 minutes now.
So in reality, that'll be an out lap, maybe 4 flag laps before the checkered flag comes out. So Maro Engel's still behind the wheel of his Mercedes. No, maybe not. In fact, maybe Lucas Auer has taken over the information on the windscreen. So it is Lucas Auer behind the wheel. So Maro Engel has vacated the 48 Mercedes, and clock ticking down, just 10 minutes remaining. Try not to trip over one another on this out lap, which is always something that's too easily done. Matteo Drudi likewise behind the wheel of the number 7 Aston Martin. That car, I'm not sure was Matteo Drudi, got a lap in before we had that second red flag interruption. Car currently just outside the top 10 in 11th place. Expect to see Matteo Drudi quickly, in my thoughts anyway, getting himself up into the top 10.
So there's 96 then. That's Sven Müller staying behind the wheel with told, of the Porsche. All 25 have ventured out for this session.
Max Gertz behind the wheel
Yeah.
now, the number 9, so that's been a driver change. An opportune, if you wished, for the Butson team to change over Jules Gounod, who did a pretty impressive job, as you would always imagine, and always delivers. The 46 WRT BMW Valentino Rossi, that car, we saw it go off coming out of Stirling's and just nudged the tire bail going in, out of Sheen going into Stirling's. Car still is in the pits being worked on, so we didn't think there was too much of any sort of major damage, but maybe the team just want to be absolutely certain that all the bodywork in particular hasn't been damaged or have could have a bearing on the car's performance.
And I guess also that all of that gravel that came into the engine bay needs to be cleared. You don't want to send the car out and find there's a stone where it shouldn't be, and it creates all sort of mechanical mayhem. Tom Fleming, however, can explain himself. He's with Antonia.
Tom, the car's looking a little bit grassy. Did you try and save it? Did you keep your foot in?
Well, I didn't really think the guys who were mowing the lawns out there were doing a good enough job, so I thought I'd do some myself. But no, I just, coming out of turn 7, just a little bit too much to the curb, and it would have been fine if it was a summer's day, but it's been raining all week, and as soon as you're on the grass, it pulls you off. But by the grace of God, the car is absolutely fine. Just a little bit of extra grass, which may slow us down a little bit in weight, but yeah, apart from that, the car's still fine. So I'm very grateful for that, thankfully.
And until that point, you were doing really well. Obviously, it's your first season in GT, and you were at the top of your category.
Yeah, no, it was going pretty strong. I'm pretty inexperienced in all of this. I've only done a year's worth of car racing ever, so we've had a bit of a small program going into this to get me used to the GT3, and now we're here, but we're feeling confident all round, and it's just, you know, an really exciting opportunity for both me and Donna to be taken on.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
So there we have a replay of what happened a few moments ago, and Tom Fleming making it quite a light-hearted view that I was doing a bit of grass cutting.
Wouldn't have done that had there been a lot of damage to the car, would he?
No, but he, in a sense, has gotten away with it.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, that wing end plate on the right side did get flicked, but I don't think there's been any major damage. Giacomo Weltre, the back end of the Ferrari, looking a little bit on the twitchy side as he came through Hawthorns.
Yeah, that's the car that we saw Thierry Vermeulen getting all sideways in earlier on. So Altway pressing on. He's a little bit down in the first sector, but perhaps understandably. The session has only now got just over 6.5 minutes to go. So if you get a bit of clear track space, hooray. Otherwise, it's just a case now of getting some data. And for many of these drivers, they won't have been here for 12 months. Max Gertz committing to a British GT campaign. This year he is in the car that's currently the quickest, and is Altway building up for a push lap? I think he is now. Goes through, heads up towards the line. He's let the traffic go, and now Altway is going to be a man to watch. That's for certain. He made his name really initially in Lamborghinis, but now very much part of the Emile Frey Ferrari stable. They in turn have switched brands, and we're up at Druids, John.
Well, he's got big boots to fill, because Thierry Vermeulen did a very good job behind the wheel of this car when he was having his time behind the wheel. So Altway is arguably the more experienced, but not necessarily the quicker of the two drivers. So he will want to establish. The car is still overall second quickest, just 51 hundredths of a second behind the number 9 Mercedes. So Giacomo Altway in that first sector, 2 tenths, just under 3 tenths in fact, down on the quickest in that sector, which is, I suspect, going to be the number 9 Mercedes. Up the hill and into Hawthorns, let the car run. You actually sort of, when you get to the apex, then you want to release the car as quickly as you possibly can. Get it in a straight line. You don't want to be carrying any angle at the exit of the corner, and before you know it, you've been through Westfield, through the dip, and then into Sheen. Watch on the outside. We saw what happened to Valentino Rossi, then very hard on the brakes down into Stirling's. Again, watch the exit. So, I mean, a good run from Altway, albeit hasn't got the pace that we might expect after a couple more laps.
But he's going to just about get those 2 laps in before the checkered flag. 5 minutes and counting on the clock, as up towards the line comes Altway then. The Emile Frey Racing Round Ferrari goes through that lap at 23.8, so he's just about a second off where he needs to be. In 1:59, the Garage 59 McLaren that Tom Gamble was behind the wheel of earlier on. We've got Benjamin Goethe, and this car is 4th quickest at the moment.
Yeah, the McLaren this year, and even in British GT last weekend at Silverstone, McLaren were a very strong brand, and in fact it was a Garage 59 car that won that race over all 3 hours in very, very difficult mixed conditions. Runs wide, Benjamin. You don't want to be doing that too often. I mean, we've just seen if your wheel catches the grass is holding a lot of moisture, and that's just the kind of incident that could toss you off the racetrack. Watch around the exit of Hawthorns. Keeps it on the tarmac and a bit of the runoff on the curb here through Westfield, where you get those sort of unevennesses in the corner. So again, runs it to the edge, but gets through it cleanly. Up through Sheen Curve. So Goethe, his laps times and those 2 sector times are down, but he's had so little running, he's just really driving himself up to speed.
To Clark Curve comes Goethe, 3 3/4 minutes on the clock. Good racing family. Of course, father used to race GT cars at Rold. Benjamin's brother, Oliver, winner in Formula 3, FIA Formula 3 last year. And Benjamin has developed into a really competitive GT racer over the last few seasons. So right now, I think we're in for a very competitive weekend, aren't we? 51,000 split Gounon from Vermeulen, who set the times of those cars. There's the reigning champion, Mattia Drudi, or one of the 2 reigning champions, because you've got Ricardo Feller as his co-driver last year elsewhere in the entry. Down the hill comes number 7 Aston. Drudi getting used to a new team, a new car, and the car itself still being developed. And right now, 13th in the times is where you find number 7 Aston Martin.
But just in terms of out-and-out pace, you'd always put Matteo Drudi in the top 10, no question whatsoever. But as you point out, it is a new car, a new manufacturer, and the team, of course, synonymous with running out over the previous 2 years, having to now adapt and change to an entirely different philosophy. But one I suspect that come to racing will very quickly adapt to, and particularly with people like Matteo Drudi behind the wheel.
Yeah, Mattia Drudi will help the team along with all of his experience, be able to offer suggestions and help progress this car, which will be a force to be reckoned with, I'm sure, as the season goes on. We've got just over 2 more minutes of this free practice period to go, as number 7 then accelerates down now towards clearways. Mattia Drudi on this lap, looking at the sectors, improved in the mid, was down, as you can see, in the first. So let's see whether this is going to move the car up the order. 13th at the start of the lap, and it ought to go up the order, and it goes to 12th.
Well, it's only one position, but it's in the right direction.
Yep.
So personal best sectors 2 and 3. Goes on to one more lap. This will be his just about, well, depending how good this lap is, he will be able to come across the line, actually continue. So he's got 1 minute 40 seconds remaining, and he's now already exiting out of Druids and running down the hill.
Maxi Goetz heads into Clark Curve, accelerates towards the line. His first full Sprint Cup season since he won the championship back in 2013. He's made 1 appearance in sprint since then, when he was at Manincourt in 2022. We've seen more of Maxi Goetz in the endurance races, but it's good to have him back. And Boots and VDS, new to Mercedes, are running a Pro Cup car this year. Goetz and Gounon, a really good combination of drivers. So many people thinking these are going to be the champions, but it's never quite so straightforward in Fanatec GT.
No, it's not. But what is interesting is that the 14 Ferrari, Ben Green behind the wheel, has gone second quickest. Is now the quickest Ferrari, ahead of the number 69, which is the car Vermeulen and Giacomo Altwe were so strong earlier in the session. So 2 Ferraris in the top 3, and then Charles Weerts in the lead BMW. That time may have been a time set by Dries van Thor. I can't quite see what Charles Weerts' best lap has been. His last lap was a 1:24.8. Benjamin Goethe behind the wheel of the 159 McLaren. And again, that time was set by Tom Gamble, we believe.
Yeah, but you're right about Ben Green. That's an impressive effort. 2,000th shy of Jules Gounon. That's pretty impressive. So it puts the Ferrari up there, number 14 Ferrari that he shares with Consta Lapalainen. We're going to have the checkered flag imminently, so 9 seconds on the clock. Whether or not Goetz squeezes 1 more lap out of this, I would suggest not, because the flag will be waved any second now, and up to the line goes Maxi Goetz, first man to take it. So that lap was a 1:24.3. Checkered flag, Sir Charles Dorval, the race director in the background, so to confirm to the teams that the session is at an end. And Ben Green, just 2,000 shy of Jules Gounon, making it Mercedes and Ferrari at the start of the day.
I suppose there's no surprise in the pace of this car. We've seen it with Gounon in particular. But what is interesting to me is that everybody behind, all the way down to 10th position, those positions are up for grabs. And nobody would have predicted before the session got underway that it would be the 14 Ferrari, which is a second of the Emil Frey entries with Kirsten Lapalainen behind the wheel along with Ben Green, would be the second quickest car out of the 25 car field.
Just seen Marcus Pavarud go through. He's an experienced Lamborghini racer in this championship, but the GSM car has not wanted to play ball this morning. It's a bit off the pace, oddly, for a team that's been in the championship for a while, but he improved last time, but there's a bit more pace to find in that car, if you like. So I know it's been an interrupted session, but there should be more to come when we get to pre-qualifying a bit later on in the day. Pre-qualifying starts at 11:45 local time, so in about an hour and 3/4 time, the cars will be back out on track. Busy support program here at Brands Hatch, but with the cars having taken the checkered flag, they do that cut through straight round back into the pit lane, not a full lap of the circuit, and keeping the timetable on track. Tight curfews at many of the UK circuits, Brands Hatch no exception. So that car, with a bit of head scratching from the team, one hopes will be quicker when we get to pre-qualifying. But a good effort by Jules Gounon. Perhaps not unexpected that he is fastest, although Mauro Engel and Lucas Auer, I think, will be a bit disappointed only to be 7th.
Yes, I mean, when we saw that on boards with Mauro Engel, I mean, the car looked just like it was so easy to drive. It just, wherever you want the car to be, that's where it ends up. But of course, maybe to get that extra performance out of the car, maybe having to rag it a bit more might be the way of doing it. I mean, we've seen what Jules Gounon does, and Max Goetz was behind the wheel in the number 9 at the flag coming out. I mean, having a very nice, comfortable sit, just turn the wheel and it does what you want. If that's not delivering performance, then dig deep, my boy, dig deep.
Indeed so. Well, they will dig deeper when we get to pre-qualifying, and even deeper at the end of the day, qualifying, and that will kick off at 4 o'clock. 2 sessions, 2 20-minute sessions to determine 2 standalone race grids, both races tomorrow to start our Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup season. It's a busy couple of weeks for the teams, because in 2 weeks' time they're at Misano for more sprint action. And of course, at the end of June will be the second endurance round, which takes us to Spa-Francorchamps for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa.
The centenary.
It is indeed.
Very important event this year.
Absolutely so. And it'll be a stellar entry, you can guarantee that. So, at the end of the session, the one car that had a hint of damage, and it was really gravel in the wrong place, Valentino Rossi's BMW. And this, the order, with Jules Gounon topping the times ahead of Ben Green, Thierry Vermeulen 3rd, and Dries Van Thor 4th. Tom Gamble was 5th, ahead of Gilles Magnus, Mauro Engel 7th, Ricardo Feller 8th, Christopher Hauser 9th, and Eliseo Dono rounding out the top 10. 11th, Aurélien Panis with César Gazot, Mathieu Drudy 12th, ahead of Lucas Legeret and Simon Gachet, Callum Williams 14th, Valentino Rossi 15th before his off, and then enforced benching. Alexander Sims learning about the Mad Panda Mercedes 16th, ahead of the Sean Hudspeth and Jeff Machiels Ferrari. Rhys Barr making his debut 18th. Hugo Cook, new to this, but we've seen him racing in British GT 19th with Ivan Klimenko, Max Hoffer and Luca Engschler only 20th. That's another car I think that will offer more pace as we get through the weekend. Charlie Eastwood with Salah Yoloch 21st, ahead of Patrick Niederhauser and Sven Muller. Raponge and Clark from Jakes, and Nismont, Pavarud and Kell round out the order. Let's go to our top time winners. They're with Antonia.
Sure, that was a mega lap, but not very far off of P2.
Yeah, exactly. 2000 was really close. To be fair, the track felt a bit green this morning. I think it's been raining the last few days and so on. And this loop is not used so often. But what a great feeling to be back in Brands Hatch on a lovely weather day with my friend Maxi and our new team Boutsen. Great start of the weekend and great start of the campaign for us with the team.
And Maxi, if the sun stays out, it's going to be a very different track this afternoon when it gets hot. Do you think the car will still be good?
I hope. I think we're working for it really hard. I mean, I did my first lap since 10 years ago. In Sprint 2020 1-4, it was my last weekend here, so I need to get used to the middle sector especially. Sector 1 is good, the last sector is good. I need to warm up myself a bit, but the car felt good. And we love this weather, because actually we are used to have rain here in Britain, so it's really good to have such a nice weather now.
Well, let's hope the sun stays out for you boys. Best of luck the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Antonia. Good to have Maxi Goetz and Jules Gounon as part of the entry this weekend. Let's have a look at the highlights then of that session. It was an hour in the timetable, interrupted twice with those red flags, with the bronze and silver graded drivers pouring out on track first of all. The chance to let them have a little bit of circuit experience without constantly having to look in their mirrors and get out of the way. Alessio Dono was very, very impressive early on in that session, despite running slightly wide coming out of Sterling's, which was the corner that claimed Valentino Rossi as he went off into the gravel bed, having put a wheel on the wet grass coming out of Sheen Curve. No real damage done, but it took quite a long time to clear all the gravel out of the car. So red flag, and on the restart, everybody fled from the pit lane back on the track. Dries van Toor took 32 BMW into the fray, and also looking rapid, Thierry Vermeulen, who got the Ferrari from the Emile Frey Racing Team briefly up to second despite a big, big wobble. We had another red flag when off the road went Tom Fleming, the Ferrari from AF Corsa, tobogganing its way across the wet grass, and in the end it was Jules Gounon that was the fastest at the end of free practice for our opening sprint cup round of the season. 11:45 for pre-qualifying. We'll see you then.